Transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, deep in the bowels of Southwest Texas. It's the Joe Rooz Show. The show where we talk about anything and everything. Where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
All righty. Hey, folks, this is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting live from the Asylum Studios, from the Pimple on the backside of Texas, the beautiful city of Eagle Pass. And, of course, as always, doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we can muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the Joe Rooz Show. All righty. Folks, we got one for you tonight. Terry Whalin waiting in the wings to come on in here. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, today is the 20th of January, 2026 at 19:02 hours. We actually started relatively close to on time for a change. That's always a good thing. That's always a good thing. I think we've done it 18 times since the new year, so we're very happy. we're on a good trend. All right. Folks, I hope you guys were able to catch the show last night with Shanti. That was great. What a remarkable young lady. I know I said it like probably 9,000 times last night on the show, but really, truly, what a remarkable young lady. Very disciplined, very ordered, very put together for a 17-year-old. Have published 22 books already. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. So if you haven't checked out the show, please do that. Please check it out and give it a thumbs up, like it, subscribe to the show, share it, friends, family, followers, do all that great stuff. Help us spread this show around. You know, you got to mess with the algorithm a little bit. That's the whole thing. That's how you get found. Messing with the algorithm. So let's do that, okay? And the best way to do that, like I said, is you like, subscribe, you share it with your friends, your family, your followers. and let them know that this is a live show, weeknights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Don't forget, we have our Saturday show every 2 weeks. We have a Saturday show coming up this week with our resident crypto psychic, Marissa Lee. We'll be talking about all things cryptocurrencies. And then, of course, we have our Sunday show, the Sunday Bible Study Show at 2 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you check that out as well. And, we like doing a live show. It's a lot of fun. Different energy to it. Also, makes me have to be a better host, too. Can't make too many mistakes. Can't crack too many jokes along the way. All right. Let's get into the housekeeping stuff. This way we don't keep our guest waiting too long here. So let's talk about Podhome. Podhome.fm is the most modern, easy-to-use podcast hosting platform you're going to ever find out there today, especially. You can use Podhome to publish your episodes, enhance your audio, automatically generate chapters, titles, transcripts, show notes, cover art, chapter art, episode art, all that great stuff. And not only that, but you can also podcast live. So, which is exactly what we do. So, you're actually watching the video. That's great. We love that. We want you to keep watching. But if you want to listen to the show live on the audio feed, you can do that also very simply by heading over to the modern podcast apps like Podhomes or Podcast Guru, Podverse, Podcast, all those great apps, and check out the live feed. Or you can go to our website, joerooz.com, and you can listen to it live streaming across our homepage right there. There's plenty of ways to find the show and to listen to it. And another thing that Podhome gives you, if you don't have one, if you're a podcaster, you should have one. If you don't have a website, Podhome gives you one at no additional cost to you. So you need to check out Podhome. It's a great platform, been part of them for 3 years now, and they're constantly working to improve things. As a matter of fact, today they just did an upgrade. Now you can actually share your video feed through Podhome. So you need to check this thing out. You get all of these great features for one affordable monthly subscription of $15.99 a month. Just $15.99 a month. Now, I've been on other platforms where I've paid double, triple what I'm paying at Podhome, and I got hardly anything compared to what I'm getting with Podhome. So check them out, $15.99 a month. And if you go there today, you sign up, you get 30 days free. So 30 days to play with it, and then $15.99 a month thereafter. You're not going to be disappointed. You're going to think it's the greatest thing in the world. So check them out. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm easy to please. So check them out. Podhome.fm, podhome.fm. Also, just want to remind you to head over to our website. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. There we go. Head over to our website, joerooz.com. And when you get there, look for the contact section. Open up that little web form. Send us over any questions, comments, cares, or concerns that you might have. And let us know what you think. We love your opinions. We love to hear from you. We'd like to know, maybe you have a suggestion for a guest, maybe a particular topic of discussion, something that you'd like to bring to our attention. Do it right there in the contact form. Or if you don't want to use the contact form, totally fine. That's why we have an email address. You can always email us at info@joerooz.com. That's info@joerooz.com. Or you can actually even leave a comment right down there in the bottom of the screen. We read those whenever we get them, and we appreciate them. So plenty of ways to reach us, plenty of ways to contact us, plenty of ways to complain. joerooz.com, contact form, send it over to us. We love to hear from you guys. All right, and the last thing we need to mention here is that this particular guest is being brought to us tonight by Podmatch. Podmatch is kind of like Tinder for podcasters. It's a great app. It's a great service to be a part of. What Podmatch does is basically you build a profile, your guest builds a profile, the algorithm, keyword, the algorithm puts the profiles together, and then you guys have a choice. You can either match or pass. Swipe left, swipe right. Either way, it's like a dating app. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. It really is. Now, most podcast hosts and guests spend hours researching connections, coordinating interviews, and working on administrative tasks while only spending, believe it or not, 10% of their time on what matters, recording impactful podcast episodes. Podmatch enables podcasters and guests to reclaim their time through automations and streamlined processes so that they can focus on creating content that serves their listeners. Check out Podmatch at podmatch.com/member/Joe. That's my link to my profile. You can find out more about the show there. You can find out more about me there. You can also sign up to Podmatch through that link. And we would love to see you there. We'd love to have you part of the Podmatch group. And you never know. maybe you'll be on the show one day. We'll see. All righty. Now, tonight's guest is Terry Whalin. Terry is a publishing veteran with 60-plus books to his name, editorial experience on both sides of the desk, a magazine editor, literary agent, and acquisitions editor for Morgan James Publishing. Terry has helped authors navigate unrealistic expectations about publishing and has written extensively on what works and what doesn't in building a writing career. He blogs with 1,800 articles, 18-plus articles on the craft and business of writing, and he's here to talk about some of the myths that could be holding you back. Terry, welcome to the show.
Joe, great to be here with you tonight.
Oh, awesome, man. I was looking forward to our conversation. I mean, you have a tremendous pedigree. I mean, just the amount of work that you've accomplished and across multiple forms of service in the writing business, if I can put it that way.
I've had a lot of great opportunities, and I just try to reach out and grab everyone that comes by. Is what I've been doing for years here.
Well, that's the best. Reach out and touch someone. Was that a commercial?
It was, I think.
It was a telephone commercial, wasn't it? Was it Bell or something like that? I'm dating myself here, but reach out and touch someone. And now you do that, you go to jail. So,
yeah, you do.
Or get some kind of sexual harassment complaint filed against you, maybe. I don't know. But so Terry, I'd like to usually ask our guests a couple of ice-breaking questions, so we got to warm you up a little bit. So I'm going to ask you your two, and the first one is, if you had to give a TED Talk right now with no prep, what topic are you going to rant about?
I'm really going to rant about something that ties to my background here, which is how books change people's lives. And I know that firsthand, Joe, because as a sophomore in college, I read a book that changed the direction of my life.
And which book was that, sir?
I was a journalism major at Indiana University. I thought that's what I was going to do. I thought I was going to be like a newspaper reporter is what I was training for. But at Indiana University, I mean, there's 30,000 kids on the campus there. And so I kind of got lost. But I joined the college newspaper. And one day I couldn't put my fingers on the right keys. And back then, in the pre-computer days, when you made a mistake, you just backed up and X'd off. And I knew my copy was going to look terrible. My editor was going to be yelling at me because of the way it looked. And so every time I made a mistake, I muttered to myself, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. And this little blonde-haired girl that was sitting next to me, we were sitting all shoulder to shoulder writing her story. She turned to me and she said, "Oh, Terry, don't say that about Jesus, because one of these days when you really need him, you'll call out for him and he won't be there." And I thought, what's this? I'm a Christian. I go to church when I'm at home. I read the Bible in church when I'm at home. I really had no relationship, Joe, back then. And so she encouraged me to go to this little bookstore a couple blocks off the Indiana campus. They had pretty cards and posters, and maybe I'd find a book that interested me. So I wandered down there a couple of days later. I bought this book called Jesus the Revolutionary. I thought, how in the world could Jesus be a revolutionary? So I took that book back to my room. I read that book, and it showed me a different side of Jesus than I'd ever seen before. I mean, he was real, more than just a praying figure in the Garden of Gethsemane or somebody raising his hands and blessing kids. He was real. And so about that time, somebody invited me to this Jesus People gathering in downtown Bloomington. People were sitting on little scraps of carpet with little candles lit. And those people in that room had something that I didn't have. And so I got a Bible. I changed the direction of my life. Instead of becoming a newspaper reporter, like for the Indianapolis Star, the Chicago Tribune, one of these places, I joined this group called Wycliffe Bible Translators. And when I trooped off to Guatemala, Central America, I worked among the Southwest Cachiquel people. And I'm sure my journalism colleagues just thought I was crazy to have done that. But I did that very intentionally because I knew that books change people's lives, because my life had been changed by reading that book, Jesus the Revolutionary. And that's my basic reason why I'm in publishing today and why I'm helping people all the time, because their book can equally change people's lives.
That's great. That's great. That's a great answer. I like that. So, okay, now if you can put one sentence on a billboard that everyone would see, what would it say?
I'm going to turn and talk about something completely different here. The sentence that I would put is a quote from the great circus promoter, P.T. Barnum.
Okay.
He said, without promotion, something terrible happens. Nothing.
I like that. That's good. See,
Which is really true, because
yes, absolutely,
you've got to be telling people.
Absolutely. I've often been called a walking Google, and because I seem to have just this little bit of knowledge about everything. It seems to some people anyway. But I never heard that quote. That's a great one. I have to add that to my repertoire.
Yeah, I'm not going to play Trivial Pursuit with you then. I think that's what you just told me there.
Yeah, I have my little pet subjects like everybody. You know how it is. So before we really get into the meat of the night, you mentioned that you're a church going man. You read your Bible. You're involved. So tell us about how you came to know Jesus Christ as your Savior.
Well, it was really through this group, Jesus People group, that I joined at Indiana University, and I got a Bible and started reading the Bible and walking the trail of Jesus, I guess, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And that's why I've worked for Christian organizations. I worked for Wycliffe for 17 years, and then from there I went to Decision Magazine with Billy Graham when the office was in Minneapolis.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah,
I covered Franklin Graham's first overseas crusade. We were down in Managua, Nicaragua with him doing that. Wow. And so back then, Decision Magazine, we were doing 1.8 million copies of the magazine every month. So it was quite an operation to get to do that kind of thing. And so books and all that has just been part of my life and what I do here.
Well, that's great. Before the show, we spoke briefly. I mentioned a friend of mine, Wayne. He actually works. He does volunteer work with one of Franklin Graham's. The name of it just flipped out of my head.
Samaritan's Purse or something like that.
Yes. So he's been on missions trips all over the place, and I got to give him credit. So it's not an easy thing to do, just to pack up one day, shuffle off. I think it was in Alaska last.
Wow.
Shuffle off to Alaska, spend a couple of weeks up there, helping people build homes and shelters and such, and then come on back and then have to pick up and go someplace else and do it again. It's amazing. I don't know if I would be able to do something like that on a regular basis. I could probably do it once in a while, but Wayne, and he just every time you turn around, he's out there doing something like that, and he's a man who loves the Lord. Every conversation that we have, and I don't mind talking about the Lord. I'm a born again Christian myself. I like to say I'm a blood bought, born again, Bible believing Christian, and I spent a lot of time studying the Bible, and teaching the Bible, and preaching and street preaching, and I served as an AP in a church up in New York for a little while. So I never shy away from a conversation about Jesus Christ. But man, Wayne, he just, every single conversation you have with him, somehow, some way, he ties it to the gospel message, which is great. It's just fantastic, and I admire him for that.
That is good.
He's a blessing to have around. So Terry, what was, I know you kind of touched on it already, but what was really your first step in your career that put you on the path to becoming a publishing professional?
I guess the first step for me was beginning to write for magazines. And I'm around all these people all the time that want to publish books. And I understand that books are permanent. We sell them in bookstores, all that kind of thing. But what people don't realize is magazines can reach way more people with a magazine article than you ever can with a book. If your book during the lifetime of the book sells 5,000 copies, that's a good number. Where in the magazine world, it's very easy to reach 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 people with your magazine article. So that's really where I got started. I started writing little magazine articles and getting them published. And I went to a writers' conference, I always encourage writers, if they want to get connected in this business, one of the best ways for them to do that is to go to a writers conference, bring your business cards, swap business cards with everybody that's there, and really meet all the people that you can, because you never know which person is going to be the next connection that you're going to need to help you with your writing and your writing life. So I was at one of these writers conferences, and I'd been publishing in magazines, and I was out walking with an editor from David C. Cook, and she turned to me, she said, "Terry, I've got a problem." And I always listen when editors tell me they have some problem. And I said, "What's that?" She said, "Well, I'm the children's editor at David C. Cook, and we have all these books, children's books, but our mission is to help children understand that it's a world that we have to go to, not just here in the United States. And so you're with Wycliffe. What kind of ideas do you have about that?" Well, at that point in my life, my kids were small, and I was reading a lot of children's books to them. And I knew that Stephen Lawhead, the fantasy author, also had a set of books that he did, children's books that he did under the name Stephen Lawhead. And they were with Lion Publishing, and they were books like Howard Had a Hot Air Balloon, Howard Had a Spaceship, books like that. And these books combined real pictures with a little cartoon character to help stimulate kids' imagination. And so I said, what if we did that in Wycliffe to show kids different occupations and combined it with our real pictures, combined with a little cartoon character? And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, that's a good idea, Terry. Write that up and send that to me." And so I made a little note, and I went home and I wrote it up and I sent it to her. Now, that really wasn't the book that got published. I mean, we took a lot of back and forth before it actually got published, but that became my first book that was published in 1992. It was a little children's book that I did called "When I Grow Up, I Can Go Anywhere for Jesus." And I covered like 5 different occupations and different parts of the world. And that was kind of my entry point to being in this publishing business.
All right. So was there any moment, I guess, early in your career that made you realize that publishing wasn't really what most authors thought it was?
Yeah, there's all kinds of ups and downs in this publishing business that hardly anybody ever talks about, but we all go through it. There's moments of great excitement and exultation, but then there's also these stirring doubts. You wonder if anybody's going to be reading your stuff, and if you're ever going to get published, and all that kind of thing. I did have a real big wake up moment, Joe, in my own life. I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers, biographies, how-to, children's books, all kinds of stuff. And when you write those kinds of books, maybe once a year, maybe quarterly, publishers will send you a royalty statement about how your books are selling.
Okay.
Well, all of my statements at that point were in the minus category. In other words, publishers were making books, they were getting them in the bookstore, but they weren't selling. And so I knew I must be doing something wrong. At that point in my life, I was running a little literary agency in Scottsdale, Arizona. And Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul, had this event out in Los Angeles in 2007 called the Mega Book Marketing University. He invited me to come. So I went out there. I took pitches with the people at the event, but I also sat there with these 400 people and I listened to all the speakers. And about halfway through the event, it was almost like I'd been asleep, and I woke up because I realized how little I personally was doing to be telling people about my own book. Sure, I had a terrywhalin.com website, but I was doing little else to be telling people about my book. One of the speakers at that conference was Jack Canfield, the other co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul. And Jack has this book that I have on my shelf called The Success Principles. Now, Jack's really studied success and what does it take to be successful. And the very first success principle says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success. Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. We want somebody else to do it. Some publisher, some publicist, somebody else other than us. But I decided at that event that I was going to change and take 100% responsibility for my own success.
Okay.
So back then I started blogging. Blogging was a new kind of trend back then. And like you said, I have over 1,800 entries in my blog now because I've blogged every week for all these years since like 2004. And
wow.
I have this thing that goes out online and searches for my name out there. And over a year ago, I found this article that talked about how there's over 600 million blogs that are out there. But this article listed the top 27 content producers. And I was one of those 27 people. And it's not that I'm doing anything magical here. I'm just writing about the writing life every single week. And that's the lesson that I really want your listeners to take away, is that consistency and persistence is really what's going to carry the day for you.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. That's absolutely correct. And it's interesting that, so one blog post every week, all of these years, number 27 in the listing of the top bloggers out there. And you didn't even know that.
I didn't have any idea. I mean, they had people like, Ryan Holiday and Seth Godin, people that you expect would be on that list,
Sure.
but my name was one of those people. It's amazing to me.
That is great. That's great. I'm looking forward to the day when my name's on a list somewhere like that. I don't know. I don't blog though. I do this, but I don't blog. So now, did you always know that you wanted to write, or did that kind of like just develop over time?
Well, it was actually an English teacher in high school that noticed something in my writing, and Mr. Smith encouraged me to join the high school newspaper, and they put me on the sports desk. Well, I'm kind of a non-sports person. I mean, I don't follow the sports. I don't know the terminology, any of those kinds of things. So I had a huge learning curve in order to be able to write that kind of stuff. But I learned what the terminology was, and I learned how to write. And ultimately, I became the editor of my high school newspaper my final year there in high school. So I thought I was really big stuff. I was a really big writer. So I joined the campus newspaper, but the Indiana Daily Student that they published 6 days a week was a full-size newspaper that went out to the 30,000 students on the campus there. I think I rewrote my first story for the newspaper about 5 or 6 times before the editor signed off on it and appeared. And it was like 3 paragraphs, and didn't even have my name on it. So I quickly learned that I had a lot to learn while I was here at college. That's for sure.
Oh, no doubt about it. But you did it. That's the thing.
I did.
So what would you say is one lesson? Because you also spent time as an editor for magazines. What's one lesson from your magazine editing years that still influences how you approach publishing today?
Yeah, I think one key lesson that you have to learn in the magazine market is that every time you write an article, it's for a particular audience and a particular reader. And so, like for example, I've written for church ministry magazines about baptistries and church steeples, but that's what that audience wanted, and that's what I was assigned to write. So I think that's a key lesson. No matter what kind of stuff you're writing, you've got to write for the particular audience that is going to read your material. I mean, I have children's authors that will submit their stuff to me now, and they'll say, "Yeah, my book is for ages 3 through 12." Well, that's not going to work because no book is for all those ages. So
yeah, that's a big age range.
The children's market is very, very graded. So, it's like 0 to 3, 3 to 5. You've got you've got to write your stuff, and the words and everything you choose have to be for that audience. And so that's a key lesson I think all of us can learn, no matter what kind of thing you're writing.
So what's the biggest misconception that that people have about publishing that you come across?
Well, one of the major myths that I address in my book is that they all, no matter how they're published, whether they're self-published or whether they're published by a big 5 traditional publishers, they all believe they're going to make a lot of money with their book. That's the key misconception. And sure, you may make a lot of money with your book, but that's not the reason that you write a book. I mean, you want to write a book to show you're an authority in a topic. You want to write a book to open doors of opportunity, so they'll invite you on podcasts like this, and you'll be able to speak at civic meetings and all those kinds of things. Books open doors of opportunity for you. So that's a good reason to write, not that you're going to make a lot of money, particularly.
Yeah, but I don't. So far, I've interviewed quite a few authors over the last 4 or 5 months, and none of them actually say that they're making a lot of money. I think that's a big misconception that they have. I mean, you're not going to make money right off the bat anyway, unless you're like a Stephen King kind of guy and you get some kind of a huge deal right out of the gate. But I'm sure even Stephen King or authors at that level or capacity struggled at the very start before they made it big.
They do, and we commonly tell authors not to quit their day job. Is a common thing you tell them, because there are many famous authors that kept their day job and wrote late at night or wrote early in the morning to be able to get their books out there.
Wow. Yeah. I guess I'm trying to think how I want to ask a question. So based on your experience, would you say that the biggest mistake that an upcoming writer would make even before they finish writing their book is the idea that they're going to make a fortune out of this? Or do you think there's something else?
Well, that's one of the myths. I mean, another myth that people have is that my publisher will market and sell my book, because sure, your publisher is going to put some effort into marketing and selling your book, but their effort is divided between all the books that they publish. I mean, even like Morgan James, where I work, I mean, we've been around over 20 years. We've published over 6,000 titles. We're publishing somewhere between 150 and 180 books a year. So sure, we devote energy toward each book, but it's much less than that author is going to do. So I always encourage authors, they're the ones with the great vision and passion for their book. And so they need to take that passion and use that to knock on doors and seek opportunities for their own book. I mean, people forget that even those Chicken Soup for the Soul authors that I mentioned before, I mean, Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield were rejected over 160 times before they finally found a publisher to publish that first Chicken Soup for the Soul book. They finally found this little publisher in Florida to publish that book. They told their publisher they were going to sell 1 million books in the first year. And their publisher laughed at them. They'd never sold 1 million copies of anything. They just thought that was a ridiculous idea.
Yeah, I would laugh at it too.
It took them 1.5 years. And wow. It's because these guys practiced what they called the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to be telling people about their book. They did a radio show, a live event, a book signing, newspaper. I mean, there are dozens of things that you can do, but they specifically did that over and over and over until it finally caught on. and went. And that level of persistence is really what those of us as authors have to have, because we never know what's really going to catch and really make the difference out there.
Sure, absolutely. So now you worked as an acquisitions editor. What exactly is an acquisitions editor?
Basically, I'm a hunter and gatherer. So I'm the first person that reads a lot of the material that comes over the transom and looks at it, makes a decision as to whether it's a viable idea or not, and then I talk to the author and make sure they're a good fit for Morgan James, and then I turn and promote that author, champion their cause to my colleagues to get them a contract. I negotiate that contract with them, with the author or their literary agent, and then other people in the business carry on the production side of things. So I'm very focused on the front end of the process.
I gotcha. Now, how important is platform building for authors today?
That's pretty important because, and basically, a platform is all about your readership, and who you have is going to read your book. And the numbers keep going up and up and up because the price of books keep going up. The number of books that are published every day keep going up. Mm-hmm. I mean, with the self-published books, I had a friend a few years ago tell me, she said, Terry, remember, there's over 4,000 new books that are published every day. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of books. And that included all the self-published books. And now I've heard the numbers as high as 11,000 books.
Wow.
Every day. And it's because, anybody that's got a computer thinks they can write a book and get it out there. And hey, we've all got computers. They're in our phones, they're everywhere. And so people write these little books and they put them out there. Does that mean they're going to sell? Not if they're not telling anybody about them. So a lot of it boils down to the marketing and the promotion part of the process.
All right. Now for you, how do you balance creative writing with the business of publishing? How do you find the balance in that?
Finding a balance is hard for all of us. But I've basically developed some systems and some consistent behavior that I do in order to be able to market and sell my books. So, for example, I ignored. You and I were, before the show, we're talking about LinkedIn. I ignored LinkedIn for years. But then I realized how important LinkedIn is because it's basically a business to business type of relationship. And so now on LinkedIn, I have over 19,500 connections on LinkedIn. And so now maybe I'll go back to somebody. Maybe I need an endorsement or I need something from that person, or maybe I want to pitch them a magazine article. So I often go back to LinkedIn to see where they are. Are they still in the same seat? People change all the time in publishing. So it's a really great tool just to be able to keep up with people by being connected on LinkedIn. So I use social media very judiciously. It's not that I spend a lot of time on it, but maybe about 30 minutes a day that I spend. But I post on social probably 12, 15 times a day because I've developed a system to do that. It's not all about me. It's about other people and other things that I'm doing. But I think those of us that are in publishing, in order to be efficient with our time, need to develop a pattern that's going to work for you. I have a friend, for example, that Beth Adams, that she's the editorial director at Hachette, which is a major Christian publisher. Faith Words is the imprint that she's an editorial director of. I was reading about her the other day. She's written over 80 books, but she gets up at 5 a.m. every day and spends a couple of hours, the first part of the day, writing her side hustle, which is these other books that she's doing, Okay. So it can be done. I hear it from writers all the time. Oh, I want to write a book. I don't have any time. Well, you do have time if you make the time to do that. And that's part of this discipline that we all have to do to try to find that balance. And it'll be different for me than it is for you, but you've got to keep experimenting to find that.
Right. That's interesting. You mentioned that because in last night's show with our guest from last night, she has a very ordered and very disciplined approach to her writing. And one of the things that she had told us was that she makes it a point to write 1,000 words every day. And she makes that time. She devotes that time to it. No matter how long it takes to get the 1,000 words, she has to write her 1,000 words every day. And because I asked her, I said, so you've published 22 books. You're working on multiple different genres. Where do you find time for your schoolwork? And because she's a teenager, she's 17. Where do you find time for schoolwork and a social life and all that other stuff? And she says, well, my writing comes first. This is basically, which I'm paraphrasing. But so you're absolutely right. Discipline. You have to have discipline and do these things. You have to make the time out of it. That's something that you really want to do. You make the time for it, and I think that's key. That's very, very important. Now, I want to talk to you about your book. So actually, why don't you talk about your book? Tell us your book. Tell us what it's all about, and then we'll go in from there.
Well, my book is called 10 Publishing Myths, Insights Every Author Needs to Succeed. And the reason I wrote this book is because I talk to authors almost every day, and almost every time I talk to them, they have some myth, some unrealistic expectation about what's going to happen with their book. And so much of the publishing process, Joe, that I've learned is outside of anything that I can control as an author. I can't make a bookstore buy my book. I can't make a reader go into the bookstore and buy my book. Right. I can't make a publisher make me an offer on the book. I can blog. I can make a newsletter that I send out. And so what I really tried to do in this is pick out practical applications in every chapter that people could use in their own writing life, whether they are traditionally published or self-published or hybrid or whatever it is that they went to. And so I try to make it easy for people to get this book because I set up a website. So if they go to publishingoffer.com, they can get this book from me for only $10, the printed book, along with over $200 worth of free bonuses that I send them. And they're not just funky bonuses. One of the bonuses is an audio that one of my friends, he sold thousands of books. He self-published his book, but he sold thousands of books to public libraries. Nobody thinks about going to the library. there's libraries have budgets. They buy books. And so this guy figured out how to call libraries, which librarian to call, how to talk about his book in a few minutes, take an order, and then pack up his book and sell it to him with an invoice.
Wow.
And, that's a creative idea any of us can use. Sure, you got to put some shoe leather behind it to actually sell books. But I think that's a pretty good idea. That's a valuable resource. Yeah.
I don't think I never would have. I never thought about where the library gets their books. I'll be honest with you, but that's great. That's a great idea. Wow. So I had one of my books. Got in when I lived in Colorado. Got in the local library there. It was a biography I did on Billy Graham actually, and I was so excited this book was in the library. About a year later, I checked. And my book wasn't there anymore. And so I went back to the reference librarian and I said, what happened here? Why isn't my book still in the library? She says, oh, Terry, every book in the library has to earn their
position to stay in the library. It has to get checked out so many times. And if it doesn't get checked out so many times, then we put another book in its place. We only have so much space for books. And so what I learned out of that, Joe, is that it's great to get your book in the library, but then you also have to continue to promote, to tell people that that book is in the library and they can go check it out.
Well, that makes that's a ton of sense. To me, it's like common sense, I guess. I don't know, but
it's common sense, but it's stuff that nobody ever thinks about.
Yes,
exactly. but it affects whether your book is going to get out there and succeed or not at the end of the day.
Sure, absolutely. So, can you walk us through one myth that you think every author has to hear?
Oh, I think the 11th myth. It would be one that I have an 11th myth because
I was just going to say, isn't the book called 10?
It's called 10, but Alice Kreider, who's an acquisitions editor, when she sent me back her endorsement, she said, "Terry, you're missing the 11th myth." And I'm like, okay, I'll bite Alice. What's the 11th myth? She says, well, the 11th myth should be that if I send my book to Oprah Winfrey, she'll book me on her show. And I'm like, I laughed and I thought, yep, that's a really good myth. And what I decided to do is when I was writing my book, I decided to write that chapter.
Okay.
And when we designed the book, we designed that chapter to look exactly like the rest of the book. And people can get that chapter from me for free. If they go to terrylinks.com/11th myth, 11th myth, you put in your first name and your email address, and then you get that whole chapter free from me. What people don't realize about Oprah Winfrey is that she gets lots and lots of stuff that people give her all the time. She puts it in a big warehouse in Chicago. She organizes it, and then a couple times a year she gives it away. Now, if you want your book to be in there with that, go do that. But I think there's a lot more effective things that you could do with your book than mail your book to Oprah Winfrey at the end of the day.
Sure. I mean, the goal of writing your book, I guess, is to get somebody to read the book, not throw it into a warehouse and leave it sitting there unread.
That's right. That's right.
There you go. So, what's a MythBuster action, and how does it help authors?
Yeah, at the end of every chapter, I have this MBA, this MythBuster action, and that's really the practical application for that particular myth that an author can do to help themselves and move forward. So, like, it's something under their control. Like, for example, newsletter. I mentioned a newsletter. I have a weekly newsletter that I send out, and you can get on my newsletter list. And if you do subscribe, I send you an 87-page free ebook, just as my appreciation for you subscribing to my list. Well, that's something that's under my control. It's something that I can actually do and take care of. Those are the type of practical applications that all of us as authors have to figure out.
I gotcha. That's a great idea too, by the way. I have to do better with my. I have an email list, and right now it's kind of relegated to a weekly digest. Where I send out just, all right, so this is what you missed all week, from the show, and put links to the shows and stuff. But I've been thinking and been playing around with the idea of actually doing a newsletter, something a little bit more regular. I'm just not sure exactly what the content would be just yet, but it's something I've been playing around with. It's just as an idea. So we'll see.
Well, it's like these other things I talked about here. You gotta sort of figure out what it is, what your pattern is, what you're going to do. Like for me, I decided about 1.5 years, 2 years ago that I was going to do something that I call a publishing insight.
Okay.
And so I have a little bracketed thing in the name of it, a publishing insight. That's also my header on the newsletter. And I send out a little newsletter once a week. and I think I've done it. I've done it over 70 weeks straight.
Wow.
So that consistency and persistence is really what is going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's just kind of the same thing with podcasting too. I think you have to be consistent with it. You can't just let it sit by the wayside. If you want to make an impact with it, you have to be consistent. You have to if you say I'm gonna publish a show twice a week, you do it twice a week. If you say you're going to do it weekly, do it weekly. If you do it daily, do it daily. I do it daily. We do 5 shows a week, and occasionally a 6. And, it's a lot of work. Yeah, it absolutely is. I guess, I'm not saying it's sitting down writing or anything like that, but, you do write. You do have to put together a show. It's not like you don't sit there and just wing it every day.
No.
Sometimes you do have to have a form and a plan as you go ahead. And it takes time. It takes work to do, and you have to be consistent with it. So, yeah, it's the same thing. So, at least I see it that way. And one of the great things I ask writers all the time, whenever we have them on the show, which is frequently, the use of AI in writing has been growing steadily. And what's your position on AI and using AI in writing and publishing, editing? What's your take on that?
I think AI is good for research, some basic kinds of things like that, but I do not use it for the creative part, because it's very easy to pick things from here and there and basically plagiarize. It's what you're asking to have happen there. So you want to really be very, very cautious about all those kinds of things. Sure, I know it's the latest and the greatest, but we're using it to a degree. But how you use it and when you use it are the big questions at the moment.
Yeah. Because another thing with AI, I mean, you can spot it pretty quickly. It doesn't feel, it doesn't have emotion behind it.
Right.
And I heard a podcast earlier today talking about using AI in developing your shows and things like that. And one of the things he said, which was kind of funny because I've heard it myself, is people that use AI to write introductions for their guests, and they have all of these words that you don't just normally use in everyday conversation. And it just makes it sound so phony and so fake, So we don't, for the show here, we don't really use AI to write the show, if I can put it that way. To do research, yes. To get background, yes, absolutely. Do I use AI to generate the show's graphics? Yes. Why? Because I can't afford to pay someone to do it right now.
Sure.
So it's a convenience that I make use of. And for that stuff, I agree. That's fine. It's no problem. But a growing trend in podcasting also, by the way, is having AI do the podcast, which is, I don't understand that. It's not even a human being speaking. It's an AI generated representation of a particular host hosting a show, but they're really not doing the show.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's very confusing to me, and I don't know why you would do that. Why I just don't get it. But and it's another point, another show, another conversation, another time. But so with your book though, what kind of writer gets the most benefit out of your book?
I think any writer that really wants to understand more about how publishing works and how different opportunities that are out there that they can actually take hold of and do. I think those are the people that benefit the most from it. And I hope that as people read it, that they'll mark it up and they'll actually take action and do these things. I mean, what I find, Joe, from going I mean, I had that editor that told me, that's a good idea. Write that up and send that to me. Well, now I go to conferences and I sit with authors and they pitch me their ideas and I say, that's a really good idea. Write that up and send that to me. Well, what I find is probably only about 10% of all those people that I say that to will actually follow through and write it up and send it to me. They don't do it. I don't know what happens to them, whether they get in some personal crisis or their car breaks down or who knows what happens to them, but they just don't follow through. So that's another real key that all of us have to do is when you get an opportunity, go for it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. You got to go for it. You got to just do it. Put your pedal to the metal and go. So what's after somebody reads 10 publishing myths, what's the first practical thing that they should do?
Well, the first practical thing they should do is really go through these different myth-buster actions at the end of every chapter and take application for their own writing. So, for example, are you publishing with the right place? I mean, are you publishing with somebody that has got tons of really red flags associated with that publishing company? Have you ever gone to Google and typed in the name of that publishing house with quote marks and push search to see what happens? I mean, sometimes you'd be surprised that people haven't ever done that. And there's pages and pages of people complaining about certain publishers. Well, that should be a red flag to you, not to go with that publishing house.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something that I make use of regularly, actually, when I'm looking around for things related to the show. I make heavy use of internet searches because I need to know before I commit to myself to something that I'm going to end up regretting later on. It might hurt my chances of getting the show discovered faster.
Sure.
So absolutely. So what role does podcasting play in your outreach to authors?
Podcasting plays a pretty big role. I mean, you and I met through Podmatch, and I've been using Podmatch to match myself about publishing expectations to different hosts, and so I use it all the time to be pitching and to booking on other podcasts. I think it's a great thing. I mean, you mentioned Podmatch. I mean, Podmatch is connected to over 90,000 podcasts. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. You just have to find the right one and make sure it's a good fit for you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's if I remember what I read on Podmatch's statistics, there's over 4 million podcasts that are out there. 4 million. Of the 4 million, there's only about 400,000 that are actually active. And then you have 90,000 of those connected with Podmatch, which is amazing when you think about that.
That is amazing.
There's a huge. I think podcasting changed the face of just about every venue that's out there. I mean, politicians use podcasting now to reach a much larger audience. I think most people don't want to listen to mainstream broadcast news and shows like that because they're just too scripted. They're not free flowing and natural. Podcasts are different. Podcasts, we're having a natural conversation, and that's what you tend to get with a lot of podcasts, and it's more user accessible. I mean, you carry it with you in your pocket. You can listen to it whenever you want. You're not fit to a specific schedule of a show. Even though, look, we have a scheduled time we start, 7 o'clock, but you know what? After the show's over, within an hour of the show being over, you can download it, you can listen, you can rewatch it, you could carry it with you, you can listen to tomorrow, whatever, and the episodes are always there on a podcast. A regular broadcast, it's like it's a hit and run. Once it's there, it's gone, it's gone. You're not going to be able to go back and catch it again. So podcasting is I think is huge, and I've been doing this kind of stuff since 2016. before podcasting became podcasting.
Wow.
They used to call it. I mean, they did call it podcasting back then, but it was usually in its infancy. I was doing what they called internet radio, so which is very similar. And podcasting killed internet radio. You know, it's been a great tool, and I love it. I absolutely do. So where do you see traditional publishing going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, traditional publishing is going to still be here because those big publishers are still publishing books, and they're still selling books, and but they're obviously looking for people that have those connections, have that platform, those newsletter lists, the ability to reach out and touch people and sell books at the end of the day. But yeah, traditional publishing isn't going to go away. It's gonna keep on going.
Now, as a publisher, and as a writer, you've had to deal with rejection. You mentioned the Chicken Soup guys got rejected 160 plus times. What's a piece of advice that you'd give an author when it comes to navigating around rejection?
I think one of the best pieces of advice that I ever heard was from those Chicken Soup for the Soul authors. What they learned to do whenever they got rejected is they would look at each other and say the word next. Okay, this didn't work. Okay. Where's the next one? Because when you get rejected, it's so easy to say, oh my goodness, they didn't want me. It's terrible. And you just put it in your drawer and tuck it away. Where if you focus on the word next, you think, well, okay, this wasn't the right fit. Where is the right fit? I'm going to find that next one. And so that moves you forward rather than just getting stalled in the process.
Yeah, that makes sense. See, I see it. I thought you were going to say something else. I wasn't expecting to hear next. I thought you were going to say, "Well, it's your fault." What did you do? That type of thing. But if someone has a story but hasn't written a word yet, what's the first thing you would tell them?
The first thing I'd tell them is to really focus on story and writing that story. And it's not a book that they need to begin with. Mm-hmm. I would begin with a magazine article, because in the magazine business, you learn how to write a good headline, how to have a good beginning, middle, and end. You learn how to write to a particular point and to a particular audience. We call that a takeaway in the business. And, if you write 15 magazine articles that are on similar kinds of topics, those could be chapters in your book, depending on how you put it together. So it's all a matter of being strategic and looking at what you do. But you learn a lot about the writing process in the magazine business, and good grief, you're going to reach way more people with your magazine article than probably you ever will with your book. And you're also building your own publishing experience in that process, because that's something that hardly anybody talks about. But the fact that you've been published in these magazines shows that you know what the drill is. And so you're much more likely to be attractive to a book editor if you've published a few places.
All right. So, question for you: if somebody wanted to get into publishing, how was the first thing they should be looking to do, or what kind of a background should they have?
You mean if they want to work inside of publishing? Yes.
Yes.
I guess what I did have somebody approach me even in the last couple of days about that. They're like a journalism major and they want to get into book publishing. What I told them to do is really to get inside the publishing house however you can, whatever means that is. So whether you can be, if you're going to be an executive assistant, if you're going to be an assistant publicist. I mean, there's all different kinds of roles, but take something inside the publishing house. I've watched people through the years that started in publicity. They moved to editorial. They ultimately became the publisher in their company because they went through the process. So part of it is kind of understanding the dynamic and the relationships, but get inside the publishing house, however you can get inside there, and then go from there.
All right, outstanding. Well, Terry, this has been great. I really appreciate your insight on this whole thing. This has been a great conversation. I really do appreciate you taking the time to be with us here tonight. So, just last couple things for you. So, who's somebody that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you?
Oh, there's a lot of people that I respect. I guess I'd really say Jerry B. Jenkins, who wrote the foreword on my 10 Publishing Myths book. Jerry, people forget. I mean, he wrote the Left Behind series. He's also writing the books go with the Chosen series, and I mean, Left Behind has sold over 80 million books. But people forget that he'd written over 100 books before Left Behind.
Oh wow!
And those Left Behind books continue even today to sell 10,000 copies a month of that series. So over 20 years ago when he wrote that book. So I really respect somebody like that has been doing this consistently over the years, and they're still doing it.
All right. So Terry, where can we go to find out more about you and your work, sir?
Well, the best place would be just my blog on thewritinglife.ws, my personal site, terrywhalin.com. Or I really want people to go to Publishing Offer, like I said, to get the book for only $10. It'd be a great way for them to learn more about me.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Terry Whalin, thank you so much again for being here tonight. Really appreciated the conversation. I've learned, I learned something from everybody, and and tonight was really, really very informative for me. That you pointed out some things that I did not know, and I really appreciate that. The more I interview authors and people involved in the publishing industry, the more fascinated that I become with it, and the more interested I am in getting more involved with it. So whether it's actually taking that outline that I have sitting in my closet and actually writing it one day, or getting involved in publishing itself or editing or whatever it might be, it's to me it's very interesting, and I like this. This is great.
There's a lot to learn, Joe, and I'm continued to learn day in and day out. And I've been doing this for years, so there's no end in possibilities out there.
All right. That's great. All right. Well, Terry, again, thank you. I appreciate it. And we're going to close out the show here. I don't know if you want to hang out at the backstage area while I do that, and then I'll catch you in about a couple minutes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. All right, folks. Terry Whalin. Awesome conversation. I'm telling you, we got some really, really good quality guests through Podmatch. It's just fantastic. And I'm really interested in what we talked about tonight. And got some lessons there. I know I keep referencing the podcast with writing, but it's there's a lot of similarities there. You just got to look at it, and you got to pull what you can wherever you can, and try to use that to improve what you're doing. And that's what I'm trying to do here, because I do want to continue to bring you guys quality talk, quality guests, and the only way we do that is by keep plugging at it and keep doing it and keep working at it. All right. Well, with that said, let's just do this really quick. Gotta get the prop. Hold on. All right. Well, it's tax season. Just remember, taxation is theft. Just your friendly reminder. Like I said, it's tax season, and it's about time you start looking to file your taxes. Well, right out here in Eagle Pass, we have the Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy. Great company. They did my taxes for me last year. They maximized my returns, minimized my stress, and the whole process thereof. and they really provided a great service. So if you want to get a consultation, you want to talk to some folks over there, just call 830-867-7106. It's 830-867-7106 for Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy. All right. Great folks over there. Know them well. Like I said, they worked with me last year, did a great job, and they'll do a great job for you too. Diamond Dynasty Tax Group Legacy, 830-867-7106. All right. Now we can take this thing off. I love the hat. I really do. It's a lot of fun. All right. What else we got? All right. So our shout-outs tonight to our executive producers, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Marissa Lee, and, of course, to our inestimable anonymous Angela. Thank you guys so much for all that you do and all the effort you put into the show. We could not do this without you, folks. These people donate their time, their talent, and their treasure to help put this show together, and we really couldn't do it without them. So appreciate them, incredibly thankful for them. And if you want to help us out, if you'd like to find out more about how you can help us out, you just need to head over to our website, joerooz.com/support, and you could find out all the different ways that you can donate to the show, whether it's a one-time or a recurring, or if you sign up for one of the producer tiers, donate cryptos, whatever it is, all that information is available to you right there on our website, joerooz.com/support, joerooz.com/support. All right, now, tomorrow night we have Donovan Pyle will be joining us, and I think that's just about all I got for you. All right, folks, so don't forget, website, joerooz.com, leave us a message, let us know what you think. And remember always, let's make Texas independent again. Go podcasting, keep a steady stride, and keep talking. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, folks.